Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where we honor our nation's veterans by preserving and sharing their stories. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m. To learn more about our mission, watch veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. Today is Monday, August 17th. We're talking with Patrick Forystek, who served in the United States Marine Corps. So good afternoon, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for having me over.
Well, I'm glad that you made it. And it's interesting that this was a deja vu trip for you because you've been here, not here, but you've been in this neighborhood before.
Somewhere in it. Yeah, in my role at Michigan State, I work with athletics a lot, and I was dropping off tickets for someone who's going to be the vet of the game for a basketball game, 2 years ago probably. And I never actually met the guy, but I know it was in this neighborhood. Huh. And I so it's probably like your neighbor. Yeah. Because I think it was the condos, and there were the condos on this side, and I know it was a condo too.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I'll drive around. Somebody kicks me out.
So we'll go ahead and start. Like the first question I always ask is, when and where were you born?
Yeah, so Flint, Michigan, March 16th of 1987. It was a Monday. I don't know why. I've had to now when you put your birthday into stuff on the internet, they always make you use the calendar. So now I have to click on Monday so much. I know it was on a Monday. If you'd have asked me that 15 years ago, no idea which day of the week that was. And I've learned. But it was a Monday.
Well, and as you get older, it's like spinning a roulette wheel to find your year.
It's starting to get like that. I'm like, oh God, the 90s, okay, the 80s, here we go.
Well, you were born 3 years after I graduated high school.
That'll do it. Yeah.
So did you grow up in Flint?
I did. Well, Flushing. So just a suburb of Flint, but no one knows where Flushing is. But it's sort of just west of Flint, basically. Grew up there. Went to school. I think I went to kindergarten for like half a year in Clio, which is another suburb. Yeah. Moved over to Flushing sometime during kindergarten and graduated from there. And then I ended up going to school, University of Michigan, Flint. So I did eventually go to school in Flint, but yeah, most of my childhood was, small town.
Yeah.
Mostly people that work for GM in some capacity or another, working at the shop. So there's a lot of that growing up.
Yeah. Brothers and sisters?
I have 4 half siblings, so 3 half brothers and a half sister, and they're all 4 of them are younger than me. Okay. The oldest one is 4 years younger than me. I don't see them too often. Most of them live out in Arizona, that area. So.
Okay. Yeah. So talk to me about your mom and dad.
Yeah. So I grew up with my mom. Worked at Red Lobster for pretty much her whole life. I think she just actually retired from there a couple years ago. My dad, roofer for most of my childhood. And then it's actually interesting. So he moved out. This is after I joined the Marine Corps. He moved down to the Arizona area, Phoenix, Mesa, and then just moved around a little bit. He went from working in roofs to working in pools and then ended up moving out there and just career skyrocketed because everyone in Phoenix has a pool.
Yeah.
And now he works in the corporate side of a major chain that I think we even have here in Michigan. The only reason I know that is I had a pool at my last house and I used to use his discount. And I think it was Leslie's Pools or something. But my youngest brother actually got into that because he had just graduated high school when my dad moved out there. And now he's doing really well for himself. I think he bought his first house at 22, 23, I'm trying to remember. It's like a trade almost. They're divers.
Yeah.
So in Arizona, don't quote me on this, I laugh. I know bits and pieces. I think there's a state law because somebody died years ago, like a senator or representative's kid, something to do with the pool pump or filter. So now they have to do mandatory state law to do certain maintenance on it. Mm-hmm. So since everybody has a pool and the maintenance is actually pretty simple, it's easier to pay a diver to go in and do the thing than it is to drain your pool and put water back in.
Right.
So interestingly enough, now my dad and now my youngest brother work in pools and out there I laugh because it's almost like a trade. We don't consider that a trade around here, but it's $500 just to put on the suit. And half of my family are recreational divers now. Not me. This is not for me.
Right.
I think it's a little too claustrophobic. But that's my dad moved out there and has been out there ever since. I visit him a couple times a year when I'm feeling like I forgot how hot it is. That's the thing about Phoenix. They laugh. They're like, oh, it's a dry heat. It is true. It is better generally, but when it's like 110 and you can feel the heat radiating off like your car roof when you're inside of it, like air conditioning can only do so much.
3-degree burns grabbing the steering.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I remember like getting near the sunroof and be like, oh, this AC is fighting for its life in here.
Yeah, I don't even know how it works, but it's working somehow.
Right. I was like, but yeah, no, I'll go out there and visit periodically, and yeah, it's nice. But a lot of my family's out there now.
So did you grow up around your brothers and sisters though, or how did that
A
work?
little. I'd see them. I'd probably go over there like once every 2 or 3 months for like an overnight or something. Yeah. We were close. I spent a lot more time with my grandparents, especially over the summer, because single mom. They were my babysitters. So most of my stuff, like interacting with them, was over the summer. But we got closer as we got older. Yeah. Especially I graduated, went to school, joined the Marine Corps, and then they got a little bit older, and then I think we got more close when they were in their teens. And I think, like I said, Emmett, my brother's probably like 29, about 29, 30 right now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about school. And you kind of mentioned school. So what was school like for you?
Good, generally. I didn't pay attention. I probably had like raging ADHD, but I got through it. Graduated. I laughed. So I got through it just fine. I wasn't good at school, but like the experience of going through school in high school was fine. I played sports. Big hockey guy. Played, I think I started playing when I was like 9-ish. Played a little bit of travel, played in high school, played in college, ACHA after club hockey for a year and a half, 2 years before I joined the Marine Corps, and then kept that going. I just recently kind of stopped playing. I didn't even officially stopped yet, but I got an injury and I'm in my late 30s, so I had to take like a year and a half off. But no, school was good. I enjoyed it, really active. Like I said, sports, and the parts I liked, I really enjoyed. Like I said, the biggest thing was like going to class and not skipping. But aside from that, it was very good.
Right. Other than that, how'd you like to play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Right.
But so
pretty much. But very, very positive overall. I just laughed because like I don't think anybody's asked me that in a very long time. But yeah, no, it was a good experience. I went to this good school district too. I graduated with about like 450, I think. And I laugh because like it's a good school. I think I probably know like 30-ish people that are like medical doctors now that I graduated with. So it got to be something like 10% of my class at least got a PhD.
Wow.
So or an MD, some sort of advanced, degree. I was like, that's got to be a good number for your average school district. It was an affluent area, not super rich, but well off. So.
Yeah, my uncle jokes that he has a PhD, a public high school diploma.
Yeah,
right?
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
So did you join the Corps like right after high school?
No, so I hadn't really been thinking too much about the military. I think especially, so I graduated in 05 and, basically GWAT starts in 03. I remember being a sophomore. And my sophomore year, I had a social studies class. It probably wasn't called that, but it was social studies. And that year, we didn't have a textbook. We did Newsweek, and that was 02, 03. So that was Afghanistan, then the build-up to the invasion in Iraq, and then the invasion. And I got to watch that like in real time on the news and everything. So like I was aware of it. The recruiters came to our school. I think I had a Marine Corps sticker on my car briefly, but it wasn't a serious thing. I just liked the sticker. And then I left high school, went to college. That was my plan originally. A lot of my family served in law enforcement. My grandpa was a cop in Flint. My uncle was a cop in Flint. My cousin is currently a cop in Flint. The other two have long since retired. And I, after leaving the Marine Corps, went into law enforcement. That was my plan originally. I was going to go to school, get a criminal justice degree, go be a cop. Again, back to the ADHD thing. Not diagnosed, but my wife's a therapist, and while she cannot diagnose me, she's pretty sure. It's one of those, she can't legally and nor should she ethically, but she's not a dummy.
She's got a bit of an inkling.
She's got an inkling.
Going on.
Yeah. It turns out that was probably the case. Yeah. But no, I went to school, I guess similar to high school. I enjoyed it. I had, an 8 a.m. math class on a Monday that really kicked my butt. And again, going to it was a big part of that, or not going to it. Did actually, in retrospect, looking back at college, working in college now, I was doing fine. But I didn't think I was.
Right.
So after about 2 years, so I went 05, 06 would have been my freshman year of college. So then 06, 07, my sophomore year, I started working. So I went to college. Generally, I did pretty good or I did really bad. So I either went to class and paid attention and did fine, or I didn't, and I didn't. Did like 2 years of that. I did like a semester or two where I was like part-time. So it's kind of like petering off a little bit. And then I got a job working in the Flint City jail that they had just opened up. You know, it had been gone for several years. They opened it up, and it was a pretty decent paying job for somebody that was 19, 20. I was making like $18 an hour in 06, 07. Still going to school, but then I really liked that. And I was like, man, you know, I want to do something different. I don't think school's really for me. Again, looking back, kind of laughing at that, like, it was fine. I was doing fine. Decided to join the Marine Corps. Originally, this is the funny thing to me, is originally I was like, I'm going to go be an officer, because it was in school. It made sense, right? Those were the people that we were talking to.
Right.
So I drive out to East Lansing. I talked to a Marine Corps recruiter, the officer recruiter, and they're like, oh, you can do a platoon leader course. I call it PLC. It was like half of OCS at the end of your junior year, the other half when you graduate, and then you go commission. And they were like, can you run, and do you have decent grades? And I was like, no, I'm 0 for 2, not doing well. I was like, the grades I can work on, the running, in theory I can work on. I was never a good runner.
Yeah.
So I chewed on that for a week or two, and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to the other recruits. So I went into the enlisted side's office, and they sent me to do the ASVAB. I think they locked the door behind me because I got a pretty good score, and I just wandered in. And they're like, no, you're not leaving. So that was kind of my experience after of like, went to school. Like I said, I was in the 2 points. I think I left. I had like a high 2, low 3. Like I was doing fine.
Right.
But I ended up going to the Marine Corps, and obviously we're going to talk about that more, but that really changed the trajectory of my life. I ended up going back to school older, and fine. School was easier when my brain finished cooking, you know? Once you hit like that 25, 26 when you're a guy, it was fine. The second time through, I was like, this is easy. And then went to class.
Right.
But the rest of it, I was like, this is pretty easy. I can do this.
It wasn't easy. You were doing what you're supposed to do, which made it easy.
That's what I laugh when I talk to like some of these transitioning vets is like, no, it's easier than you remember.
Yeah.
I was like, a lot of it is just showing up. Like there's hard classes. Don't get me, if you're coming back and you got to be an engineering student and you got to take, Calc 2K, they're hard. Full, that's absolutely true. But generally a lot of this stuff, if you go and apply yourself, you're going to do okay, And I think like that clicked when I got a little bit older, and the second time through college was much more fun.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Like, kind of knew what you were doing.
Kind of knew what I was doing. I was getting good grades. It's much more fun when you're getting the good grades too. But that was high school, and then what kind of led me into the Marine Corps.
So why the Marine Corps?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, because I was a recruiter for the Navy, and I found that people that joined the Marine Corps were people that were going to join the Marine Corps or nothing. Were you that guy?
I don't know. No, probably not.
You were the anomaly.
I was the anomaly. Well, I laughed because that's why I said they locked the door behind me, because the recruiting station I went into was in Flint, and it was for sure, I want to say it was Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force. It was definitely Marine Corps and Air Force. I think there was a Navy office between. It was a strip mall. There was multiple. Yeah. And, I laugh, like there's truth to it. The Marine Corps has some of the best PR. They're the writers of their own press releases, right?
Yes.
And I think the Dragon commercial or whatever that was in the 90s is what got me. The great PR, and that circles around is the uniforms, and it's probably the people in high school that had been years prior that I'd forgot about. I did have that sticker, even though it wasn't serious. So what I was thinking about is I wanted a challenge, and that's the marketing shtick, right? It's the hardest thing, whether or not that's true isn't necessarily the case. But so I went to their office first, and I talked to them first, and they got me. Oh, had I taken the time to go talk to the Navy, Air Force, and Army, knowing what I know now, who knows? I was 20 and kind of dumb. But knowing what I know now, I probably would have picked a different route. I scored high enough to be a nuclear technician's mate in the Navy on my line scores. I didn't know what that meant at the time, and I'm like, looking back, I'm like, I probably should have talked to somebody else.
Right.
But hey, it worked out well for me, and I'm happy with it. I don't regret any of it, but great question, and that's why. That was because it was the first people I went and talked to, and they made a really compelling argument for why I should join the Marine Corps.
And what job did you take?
Artillery, which is hilarious because when I was working in the jail, I worked with a lot of vets, right? People that had joined prior to, because the timing, the invasion, or people that had joined right around then. So they had experienced, that time period in the military. So like, 01, 02, 03, whether they went to Afghanistan or Iraq, and I got all these stories, right? A couple Air Force guys, really great. One was actually an MP in the Air Force. One was a radio operator in the Air Force. He did like the, I don't know, radio is probably not the right term. I think it was actually radar. I remember he showed pictures, like they'd go set up a radar dish in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And the other guy, Tony, was a Marine, a radio operator with, he was East Coast. He was 10th Marines, and learned a lot from those guys. I worked there for probably about a year before I left school, left that job, joined the Marine Corps. And I told the recruiter, consulting with my my mentors, I was like, I will do any job in the Marine Corps other than be a cook or artillery. And then again, that wasn't like, that was kind of joking with him. There's a lot of other jobs I probably but I told him, I don't want to be artillery and I don't want to be a cook. He's like, okay, cool, we're going to do combat support. You'll end up as tanks.
Right.
This is artillery. It's just combat support at the time, and this may have changed. It was tanks, AAVs, the tracks, the amphibious tank-looking things, artillery, low-altitude air defense, which is much more applicable now than it was when I went in. The Taliban wasn't really, flying planes at us. And there's probably like one or two other super niche things that take like 5 Marines a year. So I go that route. I was like, yeah, combat support sounds good. Go to boot camp. They're like, you're artillery. I'm like, come on. Go, and this is a great story. I love this. So I go, boot camp, then MOS or MCTs, Marine Corps, then MOS school, and then I go to the fleet. The day I'm checking into the fleet, the day I check into the fleet, there is Staff Sergeant Snow. Staff Sergeant Snow was my recruiter. Also checking into 1st Battalion, 11th Marines. At the same time, both in our alphas, when I meet with a bunch of other boots that had just gotten to the fleet, and him, he's like, I know you, and I was like, you do. And I'm, a little PFC. Actually, I was a Lance Corporal, but I hadn't, I picked up meritoriously, and I hadn't gotten my uniforms done yet. And it was funny. He goes, I know you. I was like, yeah, you're my recruiter. I told you to do anything but artillery or be a cook. And we're just standing there in the 1st Battalion, 11th Marines office, and he's laughing at me. He became my career counselor. I gotta be like one of the only Marines in the history of the Marine Corps. My recruiter became my career counselor. And when I went to leave, he was like, interested? And I'm like, no. And it was like the very much the fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like we kind of had one of those moments. Yeah. And it's funny, I actually did end up putting in a re-enlistment package, but I got a job in the civilian world and they lost my package anyway. And my CO at the time found out they lost my package. He was like, do we need to find it? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I got a job. Like, don't look for it. Right. Like, I made my decision. But no, that transition in and doing artillery was so funny because like I ended up enjoying it like as a job. Because I wasn't a radio operator attached to artillery. In retrospect, I did a different job. Mm-hmm. But just that interaction with that recruiter cracked me up because I literally told him I will do anything but these two things. And it's in true recruiter fashion. Right. I got the thing that I didn't want. And I also wasn't a cook though, so I'll take that. Although the cooks seemed to enjoy their lives, so maybe that wasn't a great.
Maybe you could have been a cook for the field artillery.
I just like doubled down on it. Our cook was from Novi. He was a Michigan guy. I mean, it's entirely plausible.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So did you ship out like right after talking to the recruiter? Or?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I wasn't in the delayed entry program long. I remember it was January, and I shipped out on March 10th.
And where'd you go to boot?
West Coast. That was MCRD San Diego.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
God.
You got to watch the airplanes take off.
Yeah. Well, and at the time, Michigan was divided where, like, if you were near Metro Detroit, you went East Coast, and everybody else in Michigan went West Coast, whereas, like, everything else was, like, east of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi. And I didn't realize it until I went back probably in, like, 2016 or 2017. It was the first time I was ever on the East Coast at Lejeune. But, like, when you get to your MOS school, you're meeting those people for the first time. Like, East Coast, West Coast, we had mountains. I will take the mountains over those sand fleas. Oh, yeah. And they had it worse. I will give them that. That's a weird thing to want, but you can have. East Coast was terrible. I don't want things biting me all day. No. I will climb a mountain all day. Was somebody going to yell at me? Okay. Right. I don't have sand fleas biting me.
I might pull a hammy.
Yeah, like and like I totally get like, yeah, that was probably more physically demanding, but with my hatred for humidity and bugs, am so lucky that I got to go West Coast.
You were in the right place.
I would have gone UA or something, I swear, like probably not really, but yeah, like hearing those stories. And then again, going back, so I went back when I worked for the U of M system to do an education fair at Lejeune, probably like 2016, 2017, or something like that. And it was funny because it was basically a carbon copy of Oceanside, is the same pawn shop, same car dealership, same Applebee's. Was just humid and gross. And I was like, no, I'm so glad it was West Coast.
Well, and RTC, NTC was probably gone.
Yeah, I have no idea what you I don't even know what you're talking about.
So the Navy Recruit Training Command was right next to the. We could see you guys.
Yeah, because now it's all Chicago, right?
Yeah, everything goes to Chicago for the Navy, but the bases used to be right next to each other.
That surprises me that it's in Chicago. I'm sure there's a good reason why, but you'd think San Diego or something where there's a big naval base. I mean, obviously there's a base in Chicago. I assume it's a decent size if it's where they're sending all their recruits, but I don't think of the Navy when I think of Chicago.
No one does.
Like,
it's a beautiful base, though. It's a beautiful old, like, it's like walking back in time. It's very cool, but
I met somebody, it was a corpsman that got sent to Chicago for a project for the latter half of her enlistment where the VA was combining records. So they were working out of Chicago to do all this medical stuff. And she told me the same thing. She's like, it's a great base.
It's beautiful.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm sure you're on the water for some of it. They probably have the ships there that you do training on, but.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few Navy schools there. But anyway, I
digress.
So talk to me a little bit about like stepping off the bus into basic training.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was a little bit older, so I turned 21 in boot camp, which now that I'm an adult, like a real adult, right? It doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but it really probably was. You know, the difference between 18 and 20 when you're in it is like mentally is massive.
Right. You've done a few things already.
You've done a few things and your brain is cooked a little bit longer. And I think like for me, it wasn't as chaotic. I mean, it was chaotic, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like as internally chaotic as I think it can be, or like what people perceive it as when they see it. Because there were some cool documentaries. There's one, Ears Open, Eyeballs Click, that I watched before going. It was probably filmed in like 05, 06, 07, because I had a corporal that's in it. So he's in the background.
Oh, cool.
Like when they were doing the phone, and like, there's that doofus, like we were laughing at him. Like, he's in the background of that? So like, seeing that environment, like it wasn't that bad. It was just like kind of along for the ride. Like they tell you what to do.
Right.
As long as you listen, you really can't screw it up.
People have trouble with that.
They do. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong.
Amazingly enough, they have trouble with that.
I wasn't perfect, but like I probably only got, what do they call it? IT'd, when they yell at you and you do exercise like twice in 3 months. Like they were aware of me. I was pretty much under the radar, didn't get in trouble, didn't do anything too dramatic. I was probably like a squad leader for 24 hours or something, and because you know how that goes. It's like the guides were funny. It was ever who looked the best in uniform, I swear.
Right.
Everybody else, you're just cycling through until you got in trouble and fired. It was fine. In retrospect, it was probably one of the funniest 3 months of my entire life. Just like the humanity of it and just the silliness.
Yeah.
That's when I describe it to people that didn't serve. It was like, no, it's stressful, but like, there's very low stakes. They don't want to hurt you. You can't really screw it up. It's not as physically demanding as you'd think, because they're really just trying to train you as much as possible. I laughed. Because a lot of, civilians will think, oh, it's this, you're working out and you get really strong. I was like, no, I was little. Like, they PT'd us in the beginning and they PT'd us at the end so we could take the exam. And aside from that, I was not in great shape. I just lost a lot of weight because,
because you're
going, just going constantly. But I think being a little bit older for me made that whole process easier. Conceptually, I think what helped was I got what they were doing, and it wasn't like I was resistant to it, but I understood the purpose of and I mean this in not like a bad sense, the indoctrination of it is they're bringing you in, they're teaching you culture, customs, courtesies, the stuff you need to know as a Marine, just like they do in Army, Navy, Air Force. I understood that piece, so I think it made the whole thing a little bit easier. Still sucked, of course it did.
Right.
But I mean, it wasn't too bad. I just kind of followed along, listened to what they told me to do, and had a pretty decent time comparatively.
Right.
Some other people had much worse times than I did, but
that's a lot of attitude, though. Really, honestly, I think right.
It really wasn't that bad.
You take it so seriously.
There were, and I remember people that really tried to buck the system when they were there. And I remember having one of my drill instructors had I want to say like a breakdown. He was in control, but like there was somebody that just wasn't getting with the program, and I could overhear him yelling him in the hall. And he goes, at the end of the day, I'm still a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, and you're a PFC. Like all the other stuff, like all the other stuff aside, you're here, brother. Like, there's still rules and regulations, because I think he was just at a breaking point. He ended up graduating and presumably had a perfectly fine career. But I think, again, being older, I was able to navigate that with a little bit more, the better head on my shoulders.
Uh-huh.
So what was it like?
So did your family like come out for graduation?
Yeah, I had a couple aunts and uncles, and my mom and my grandparents came out for the family day and the graduation, and we hung out for another half a day. Did San Diego, all the SeaWorld and all the stuff you do, the zoo. Yeah, I did that. Went back home for my week and came back for MCT, which was, of course, at Pendleton. It's West Coast. Everything stays there.
Kind of like boot camp 2.0.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, I thought. It was more physically demanding, but it's really funny. You get the drill instructors, right?
Uh-huh.
And you go to MCT and you get the combat instructors. And the combat instructors, especially this is '08, had all been in combat. Like these are a lot of infantry guys, Fallujah, like all these places. Right. When I went through, these were some hardcore guys. And they just make fun of the drill instructors all the time. It's like, oh, those dorks, like whatever. And one of my drill instructors actually had a pretty impressive history just by chance. But yeah, you got to see that dynamic of they thought they were so much more important than boot camp because they were teaching you combat skills. You were there for 30 days with these guys and get a little bit more freedom and learn the basics and stuff. And it was a pretty nice transition because then we got evenings off, weekends off. There was still keeping pretty close track of you, but you get a little bit more freedom. And again, it was San Diego, so we could, as long as somebody knew where we were, hop on the van and go into Oceanside and spend the day there, get a hotel if we wanted to stay out for the night. Just gotta let somebody know. It's a pretty good program.
Well, for people listening too, everybody was MCT, right?
Yeah, unless you're infantry.
Everybody's a rifleman.
Unless you're infantry.
Right, because you're going to be a rifleman.
Exactly, yeah. So infantry goes from basic training boot camp to ITB, which is Infantry Training Battalion. They stay there, they get their MOS, they go to their unit. For everyone else, you go boot camp, MCT, which is 30 days of shooting machine guns, learning how to throw grenades, work radios. You do a little bit of patrolling. You do some, at the end, there's some exercises. But it's essentially, to familiarize every Marine with, if they give you, you have a rifle, but if they give you, a 50 cal, basics of patrolling and defense and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, they were a little bit more laid back because of the environment they wanted to create and the, partially, I assume, just like the way they wanted to be perceived. But yeah, it was pretty good training. And yeah, that's for everyone but the infantry goes through that. And then you're off to your MOS school, wherever that may be. And, whether it's owned by the Marine Corps or not. In my case, it was Fort Sill in Oklahoma as an Army base, which is, I'm sure if you've talked to some artillery guys before, Fort Sill is just a peach. That is such a unifying moment.
Yeah.
Between the Army and Marine Corps and Navy and
because
Air Force,
everybody hates that place.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the base is the base. Like the base isn't inherently bad or good, right? It's a base. It has all the stuff that any other base would have. But Lawton, Oklahoma is like 3 pawn shops and a mall. And it was so bad that I remember hearing, and I've since got this confirmed, is that the people that worked there, like the permanent staff that had cars, like the instructors, they would drive like 45 minutes an hour away to Wichita Falls to go to Applebee's because they hated Lawton, Oklahoma so much.
Oh my God.
So we were there for 2 months, roughly. I got to Oklahoma, and then you wait to pick up with your class. So I was like the class of like September or something. I can't remember the exact date. So I got there like, a week into August. You'd sit around doing nothing but cleaning, and like they send you out to do like jobs on base. So we'd go to like the Army's doing like gear collection. We'd help them sort gear. Or There's one really cool one I got sent for like 2 days. It was DERMO, which is, I always forget what that's an acronym for, but it's like defense, DRMO. And they're getting rid of old junk, but they had old junk.
Oh, yeah.
We were playing around with all of it and like old tank helmets and stuff, and we're just a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds like playing around.
Being idiots.
And when there's only like one person in charge and the job's done by like 10 in the morning, so they don't really care what you do.
Right.
Super, super fun. But we did that for about 3.5 weeks, and then you pick up with your class, and the days are actually busy because you're in class. And the artillery school, I mean, it's still work, it was still school, but it was a pretty fun school. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about being on Fort Sill, I will say for the Marine Corps, at least at the time, because of where they had us, we ate at the officer chow hall, which the food was about the same. I don't know, the Army and the Marine Corps are pretty good about, having spent time on ship, officers eat better than senior enlisted, like that's a weird to me.
There's a hierarchy of feeding people.
It is a weird dynamic because I come from the leaders eat last, everybody eats the same thing, that's terrible. But the funny thing about eating at the officers' mess was it was nicer, like the china was nicer, but it was all brand new lieutenants coming through, and we weren't allowed to salute them because we could derail their whole day because there would be like 200 of them. You just stand there saluting the line that was going to take 5 minutes now took 20. So we weren't allowed to salute them. You'd do it sometimes if you wanted to be a pain.
Yeah.
But that was really nice because it was really close to where our barracks were, and it was a really nice dining hall. Sometimes we'd see like foreign like dignitaries there, like senior officers from like the Jordanian Navy or something, whatever. I don't remember. But this was kind of neat to see that. But otherwise, Fort Sill was pretty boring. I went to the artillery museum that was on base. That was pretty cool, seeing some of the old cannons. They had, what was it called, Atomic Annie or whatever, they could shoot a nuclear round, presumably far enough away that you weren't affected by it or smaller. Hope. Yeah, right? I think that was the goal. They didn't really use that one in practice. But they had all these old artillery pieces there. That was pretty nifty. And I was there for just under 2 months, finished top of my class, got my meritorious promotion that I mentioned earlier, and off to the fleet, where I meet my recruiter on day one. Well, like day two, they send you somewhere else to check in first. But.
So where did you go for your fleet assignment then?
1st Battalion, 11th Marines, so Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
Got sent back out west, landed in San Diego again. I think somebody came and picked us up this time. We didn't have to pay to get back. They sent people for us, brought us up to, there's like a central, or at the time, like a central receiving place on base, no matter where you're going. If you get there at 11 o'clock at night, you've got a bed. And then it's like the next day, somebody from 1st Battalion came and got me and like a couple of my buddies. There was like 6, 7 of us that went over, and we checked in that evening, and they were like, it was really funny. I thought I was being very clever. After I saw Staff Sergeant Snow and then talking to some corporal or sergeant or whatever, no idea who this person is, probably never saw him again. They were like, who wants to deploy right away? And I think it's a trick, right? They're like, if you say yes, you're not. If you say no, they're going to do. Well, I said, yeah, me. So they sent me to Bravo Battery, and turns out they were telling the truth. I got there in September of 08 and deployed in January of 09. So I got there right at the end of a workup for a MEU.
Right.
So I literally went, and all my friends went to Bravo Battery and Alpha and Charlie Battery, and I went with like 2 people I didn't really know that well to Bravo Battery, and that was my getting to the fleet, and then it was.
So you didn't waste any time.
No.
There you go. So where'd you deploy to?
13th MEU. So it's a laugh. No one's sort of a famous one. So we left San Diego, went to Hawaii, Guam, Thailand. We get to the 5th Fleet, and we're doing anti-piracy operations. And we had the Captain Phillips movie with Tom Hanks was our boat. So we were there with the Bainbridge and the Boxer, the New Orleans and the Comstock. One of those latter 2 ships, I remember, had a bunch of issues because they had, I'm not joking, a sub surface underneath them and hit them, which the ocean seems pretty big, right? I don't know how you do that. When I was in...
On purpose.
Almost like it has to be. They talk about the Strait of Hormuz being very thin. I think some of those areas, really, the shipping lanes aren't as big as you'd think. But yeah, so they ended up going for a bunch of repairs, and it was just us and, doing boxes off the coast of Somalia with the Coast Guard Special Forces, basically like their SWAT team, I assume, like some version of that. Captain Phillips things happens. It's so high profile that they kicked the Coast Guard off the ship. They were upset about that because presumably they wanted to do the mission.
It was their job.
It was their job. They were already there. And they brought the SEAL Team 6 out, and which is hilarious because they came with their whole like PR crew. They gave us a PowerPoint presentation after the operation was over on how you become a SEAL, which was, honest to God, one of the funniest things I've ever... The presentation was fine. It was just like all my buddies that were getting out were suddenly like, I'm going to re-enlist and become... No, you're not. You were 12 hours ago, you couldn't wait to get out of the Marine Corps. Now you're going to be a SEAL.
It's almost like they planned it.
Oh,
we're going to do this really cool op, and then we're going to get a bunch of people to join.
I don't know if you've ever been on a ship. They have the forecastle. It's
I was in the Navy for 10 years.
Oh, yeah, you told me. Yeah, for some
ship.
reason I was thinking you were Air Force. So the forecastle, they set up a PowerPoint presentation in the forecastle to tell us how to be like a SWIC and all this other stuff. And I was like, this is a whole well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Like they really and obviously it's still a hard job to do. Like I'm not saying like everyone can do it, but they bring they have a whole PR team that comes with them. It was wild. Interestingly, this is the funniest thing. So about this whole thing, like probably 3-4 years ago, I come across on like Instagram a post about the Navy SEALs in some capacity, right? Mm-hmm. And it's this guy jumping out of the back of a plane, and in the back, into the ocean, in the background, you can see this little gray box. This is my ship. So it's like, this is Captain Phillips, 08 or 09, whatever. And I'm like, I remember this. So I was on mess duty twice. I don't know why I was thinking you were Air Force. I was in mess duty twice. So the first time I was in the scullery, loved it because it got me away from my unit for a month. People, I tell them that and they think I was getting punished. I was like, no.
I did not like the scullery. I'm just going to tell you.
Well, being artillery on ship is the worst thing in the world, I think. The infantry is probably just as bad because you have no job.
Right.
So every day it's the same PowerPoint presentation, the same stupid History Channel movie about artillery. Like we didn't have enough, like we were bored.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, clean my weapon that did not need to be cleaned, right? Or maybe we'd go down the well deck and grease the guns that didn't need to be greased. Maybe those because it's kind of salty down there.
Yeah.
But like nothing to do. So they'd send you out to, for me, the first time was a scullery, and it did suck in retro, but it was better than being with my unit. Second time, I worked in the kitchen peeling potatoes and onions all night, which I also really liked. Okay, so the end of the ship happens. We already have the Captain Phillips.
I'm going to pump the brakes for just a second. I got to say this. Like, everything that you're saying so far has been the antithesis of what I typically hear. Like you had a great time, but it's like the total opposite. Like I had to peel potatoes and onions. You're like, I love peeling potatoes and onions. I had to work the scullery. I love the scullery. That's awesome.
You know what's funny? It probably says a lot about my unit more than anything. But
it says a lot about you.
It really was. I liked it. You know, it was nice to be with a new command. Like I said, when I tell civilians this, it's almost like, you think of like old TV. It's like, I'm peeling potatoes.
Right.
It's great. I had no supervision. I was where I was supposed to be, when I was supposed to be. I didn't, I was a good little corporal.
Right.
And at the time I was a lance corporal. So I didn't cause any problems, and they took care of me, gave me good little side jobs. And that one was particularly nice because we got better food because we knew where the good food was. And literally all I did was sit around and listen to music and hang out with my buddies and peel potatoes, cut onions, and
Why not?
I just watched people yell at each other. Like it was pretty chill. And so in the end of this one random day, the Captain Phillips thing was already happening, right? So the Coast Guard was leaving, the SEALs were coming. We vaguely knew about some of this because they didn't tell us everything, right? Like some of this I learned later.
Yeah.
But I'm tossing trash off the side of the ship. So when you're done, like all the food trash stuff goes in the ocean. Whatever, the fish eat it. Anyways, I'm tossing trash, and a plane flies overhead, and all these people start jumping out of the back of it. And I'm like, I hope they hit my lettuce, like whatever. And it was a perfect, like, kind of full circle moment for me of what they tell you the military is going to be like when you talk to a recruiter versus what it's really like, right? And 3 years ago, I see a picture that was taken from the back of that plane, and technically, logically, if I am on we were on the one of the elevators for the aircraft. We had been loading up with trash because we had been towing this lifeboat, so they moved I can't remember, this is a long time ago. For some reason, we could finally start pushing trash off again, so I'm throwing trash off. And just like poetic, just absolutely beautifully poetic of like what you think is going to happen. And so I see this picture and I'm like, I'm in this photo technically. So it's this Navy SEAL promotional photo, and there's no way, like you can't zoom, like use your imagination. I have to be in this photo. Funniest thing in the world to me. Like this entire deployment, they made a movie out of it. Obviously, we didn't do anything. We didn't have anything to do with this. As an artillery battery, what they had us doing was when they caught the pirates, because we were actually catching pirates. They'd be, incredible distance away from shore in these little like 15-foot boats, right? And it'd be like 5 14-year-olds with AK-47s and stuff. And we'd process them like working at a jail, right? And they'd take them ashore, whatever they did with them. So we really had nothing to do. We were doing like that. And when this all went down, the Captain Phillips thing, all that changed, and it was very high profile. Yeah. So they didn't really have anything for us to do. They had a couple guys from my unit. The one that lived, escort him on a civilian ship to like Bahrain, and they flew him to New York to like prosecute him or something. I don't know. But that was like the most exciting thing out of a couple of our corporals and sergeants got to go on the civilian ship and see how they lived. But other than that, it's funny because the deployment was pretty uneventful for us, but for America, it was like a whole thing. It was funny too because we were in River City for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks because of all this. We're on ship watching ourselves on CNN, and we can't use the internet, call home or whatever. And I got to hang out with the SEALs a bit, which made me laugh because, like, in the movies, you think they're all going to be like, Jesse Ventura, and they all are just like 5'10", 5'11", like regular-looking people that can just run for 400 miles or something, whatever.
Right.
It's that was a funny thing. You'd see like a guy that looked like maybe in his late 20s and is a senior chief somehow. Like that was my experience with the SEALs. And then, like I said, they laughed before they did. They gave us a presentation, and That was like the highlight of the deployment, clearly. And then we went to like Dubai briefly. We had some issues with our flight deck. They had to redo the non-skid, so we were there for like a week. Got to go into Dubai, but it was really, they're really cautious of that. We had to be back on pier by 9 p.m. and pretty restricted. And then we went to Jordan for our washdowns. I got to go to Wadi Rum, where they filmed Lawrence of Arabia on a little MWR trip. You could pick, you could do Petra or Wadi Rum. And I picked Wadi Rum. Petra was the one that the city carved into the mountains. It was in Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade. Yeah. That one. Okay. Although I'm telling that story more and more, not like all the time, but like telling that story more and more to the younger generation. They have no idea what I'm talking about because they didn't see Indiana Jones. No. And that's my reference for Petra. So I have no other reference.
Welcome to getting older, my friend.
It's happened so gradually, and it's like a switch. I realized
people
that.
Just look at you like, what's he talking about?
I was like, yeah, from Indiana Jones, Petra. And they were like, what? And I'm like, oh. Well, you can Google Petra. They're like, okay, we got that. But I was like, you've never seen Indiana? Like, no, man.
Losers.
Okay. Well, there goes my point of reference. That was pretty cool. I got to see Wadi Rum. It was beautiful. That was the coolest thing about the MEU was seeing all these places. We stopped in Kenya briefly. But I was sick. I had, so it was 2009, it was either swine or bird flu was really big that year. Yeah. And I had whichever one it was, but before we knew we had it. So we went into Kenya and I had a fever like 102. So they left me in my rack for 2 days basically. It was like, they left me there to die, right? I was just in my rack for like 2 days. I think the third day, they were like, everything was restricted. They didn't have, like, you couldn't go out and work with the vendors anymore. It was like the last night. But I did beer on the pier for the last night and had, I think it was Tusker beer, and it was named after the elephant that killed the founder. He trampled him. I looked it up on Wikipedia once, like a couple of years ago. It was true. Like it was a story on the side of the can, and that was my experience in Kenya. And then on the way back, because we all had, whether it was swine or bird flu, I can't remember, they wouldn't let us back into Thailand, wouldn't let us back into Guam. We finally got to Hawaii, and everybody was like healthy enough. But we got back there so early that we couldn't. There's no reason we didn't be out at sea any longer, but the slip wasn't open in San Diego, so we got stuck in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and everybody's same thing. I was like, that's probably great. No, I was in an artillery battery. We had 12 p.m. libo, or curfew, Cinderella libo every day for 2 weeks, even though we were in a state, right? So, like, you have to be back on ship. That was one of the few times in the Marine Corps I got in trouble. Because I had a friend from high school, so back in Flushing, that lived on Oahu. Her and her sister worked for their uncle who owned like a wedding venue, something or other. They did linen for weddings. In that part of Hawaii, Oahu, there's a bunch of resorts on that side, and big wedding industry. So we went and hung out with them, and we had gone out to one of the beaches you can drive out to, and they got their van stuck, and we had like a rental Jeep, so we were out there for like an hour and a half trying to pull them out. We ended up getting back at like 12:30, called ahead, all that good stuff, and my NCOs were still like, yelled at me, and like, what do you want me to do here? Like, I told you where I was, like, I get it. And they restricted my libo for the rest. I couldn't leave Pearl Harbor, which, oh well. Like, Pearl Harbor's beautiful. Oh, yeah. We just went to the E Club for the 6 remaining days. That was the only time I think I ever got in any real trouble. And it wasn't even real trouble. They just yelled at me. But yeah, so we got stuck in Hawaii for a little while. We were there so long that our unit made us do a mandatory fun day on K-Bay. So they got us a bus. A lot of us had rentals, but it was just like, you have to get there. And we were stuck at K-Bay for 6 hours while our CEO, it's been out of the military for a while, where our CEO grilled us hot dogs, and we had to pretend like we were having fun. Right. He was fine. It was just, they just make you do stuff. And then, finally get back to San Diego, and that was the end of that deployment. Probably a lot more stuff there, but it was fairly boring because we were at sea for a while. Which actually, with all this stuff going on right now with the Lincoln, that resonates with me because we were at sea for like 60 something days, and that was rough. Like, we got a beer day. I get 250 days. People are like, that's a long time to not set foot on land.
It really is.
That one kid was like, I have not been on land in 2026, and I'm like, it's July.
Yeah, this year is half over.
Yeah, so mine clearly wasn't anywhere near that bad. We had pretty reliable resupplies. It still sucked being on ship, especially as a combat MOS with nothing to do. You can only run on the deck so many times before you run into stuff to look at. But see whales, dolphins, all kinds of cool stuff. I really am glad that I did that deployment because I got to see so much. It was, again, back to the recruiting thing. You got to see a lot of the world. It's true. Right. I'm probably never going to go to Guam again in my life. Probably not any of those places. And I got the Navy floated me around, took me cool places, you know. Yeah, Thailand was a lot of fun. They're all a lot of fun. Beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous, you know.
Oh, there's some great places out there.
Yeah, like no place was, and even some of those I show people, it's like, oh, that area. No, we got to go like inland and look at all this cool stuff. Thailand, like we were docked in Phuket, but we'd go to like Patong Beach on the other side, and there was a bus that took us there, and it was gorgeous. And we did for Libo, we went through MWR, and we did like a trolling thing for like tuna, and just, it was a blast. Like there was some really cool stuff we got to do. So other than being stuck on ship for large chunks of time during that, it was pretty decent deployment.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Like depending on what jobs you had to do on ship, it was pretty great. Like the mess duty stuff was about the middle ground. Like I think the real cool job was laundry. It was hot down there, but no one bothered you, and they just sit down there on their like a video game or something for 12 hours and watch people break the laundry machines.
Yeah.
And another buddy that his whole job was like delivering dry cleaning on the officer's deck, and like that was it. So, but there was worse jobs for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just kind of in the middle.
Yeah, you kind of got lucky.
I got good at blasting peanut butter off of trays. That was, you know, we'd be jamming out back there, blast. It was always peanut butter. Just people would absolutely smash that peanut butter into those trays.
Get like twice as much as they needed.
Yeah, every time. The amount of peanut butter the Navy wastes is that alone. It's got to be the funniest thing. Like I wish I could somehow snap my fingers and know how much peanut butter in like pounds that I washed down this thing. Oh my! It's got to be just insane because people would they just plop it on there, take like 2 bites of it, and give me a tray with nothing but peanut butter smeared all over it.
Or they were screwing with you.
And I really don't. That would be funny if it were true, but I just don't think it is. It would be better if it were true, because the washing machine that you would put the thing through, the way peanut butter, it would just like get most of it off, and the rest of it would superheat to it.
Right.
So like you had to blast it off to get it through the tray or get it through the washing thing. And it's funny. That was the bane of my existence for about 30 days in 2009.
Do you still eat peanut butter today?
I like it more now. I didn't like peanut butter then. It grew on me later. Actually, I hated peanut butter until I went to boot camp, and it was so hungry that like it really like let you go back through. Like it doesn't work like that. Like you know, later it does, but like so I would get like 5, 6, 7 things of peanut butter and squirt them into my mouth just to get like nutrition. And I liked peanut butter then, and then I kind of fell off. And then later in life, I'm like, no, I don't like peanut butter again. I'm back to peanut butter. So I don't have any peanut butter PTSD.
That's good. What was it like getting back to San Diego then and kind of getting off the ship? I mean, that's kind of whirlwind, like boot camp, MTC, MOS school, deployment.
It really was. I think it was me finally just getting my bearings set, because really I got to the fleet and I had like October, November, December, but December was holidays, and then we had a leave block before. So I had like a large chunk of December into a large chunk of January off. So really I was only in the fleet for like October, November, and it was mostly training. I went right out to sea. We did some training. And I will tell you, that part was annoying because I hadn't done any training prior to that. So I was expected to know stuff that I didn't do the mount training. I didn't do the crowd control. Like I'm just here holding the shield, and somebody tell me what to do, please. So yeah, when we finally got back, I think that was me finally experiencing like normal downtime. But it wasn't, because while we were on our my first deployment on ship, they told us about our next one. So we immediately went and do an 11-month workup. We got back January, probably like July, August, and we redeployed again in April the following year to Afghanistan.
2010
would have been 10. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it was very much like that's a great question. It was sort of grounding at an apartment. I experienced like regular downtime, but it really wasn't, because we immediately went into a workup for the next deployment. But it was halfway decent. It was, you know, just kind of experiencing normal Marine Corps life. I had my car finally, because I didn't bring anything out.
Yeah.
Because I was just going to deploy. So that first, from getting to the fleet, that first deployment, even though I was married, I was living in the barracks because, I hadn't gotten married yet. I was going to get married later, but we decided to get married before the deployment. One, because we wanted to, and two, like there's a lot of benefits that come with that for sure. Yeah. Like it'd be stupid not to. And it was somebody that I'd known for years, because my commander was like, "Did you just meet somebody?" I was like, "No, no." Good question, especially now being an adult. Great question. Yes. No, this was pre-planned. We're just going to do it now because it seems smart. So I got back, moved into an apartment, kind of experienced that. But again, it was busier because we were right back into training to get, all our certifications to go to Afghanistan.
Let's take a quick break.
Before we continue, we'd like to share a resource that may be helpful to veterans and their families. The Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org is designed to connect veterans with support, resources, and a community that understands their experiences. If you or a veteran you know could benefit from those resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app and learn more at vetlifetoday.org. Yeah. So you've jumped to Afghanistan when now?
So we left 2010. I think it was April. I was actually looking at this the other day because we got back in November, and they're usually 7 to 8 months.
Right.
But I lost my hard drive with all my stuff on it, so all the pictures and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, that would be about right because we probably left sometime in mid-April and got back in mid-November or late November. And that was just fly over. We got in planes at March Air Force Base. Flew to Maine, flew to Romania, I think. We didn't get off the plane. Romania to refuel, and then Manas in Kyrgyzstan for about a week. The Air Force Base there, which was beautiful. That was gorgeous because you're on the southern part, I believe, of Kyrgyzstan, and there's basically a mountain range between you and where you're going, and it is like white peaks, just beautiful. There for about a week, just doing like customs, really nothing, just kind of getting prepped to go in. And then we hopped on C-130s and flew into Leatherneck in Afghanistan and was there for about a week while we were doing like zeroing our rifles, doing IED training, like last minute stuff. And then the helicopters, and we got sent to our forward operating bases or fire bases or wherever we went respectively. Our unit kind of got split up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I laugh actually kind of back to the, picking on the Lincoln right now, is I would, and I've said this before, and we'll talk more about that deployment, but I would rather have gone straight to Afghanistan and be on the ground and get shot at and blown up than be stuck on ship for another 8 months. Again, especially as a Marine. I can't speak for the Navy. I imagine it's very different if you have a job to do on ship.
Yeah.
I just assume it is. But for somebody that literally, we were effectively in the way, it was pretty boring and just being stuck on ship for a while. Yeah, I cannot imagine being stuck for that long. So yeah, but this one, straight over, feet on the ground right away. It was like 20, 30 hours of flying both times, there and back. Yeah.
So talk to me about the deployment. Walk me through that. What
was that like? Great question. I don't know if I could surmise it into one thing because it was very divided, right? So we went over as an entire battalion. So it was, my buddies didn't go. So all my friends with Alpha and Charlie didn't go because they went on a deployment. I think they went on a MEU too, like in between. So we left, came back. After we came back, I think they left right away. And then, so it was Bravo Battery, India Battery, and I think somebody from 311, and the headquarters, and somebody from 311 or something. We took a weird group of people that wasn't really Alpha Bravo Charlie, but we took an entire battalion over to Afghanistan, shooting artillery. Went over, like I said, flew over there, landed. It wasn't as hot as I thought it was going to be. I mean, getting in Leatherneck for the first time was like, oh yeah, this is another country,
Right.
Did our prep, and they try to, oh my God, everything's an IED, you got to look where you're stepping, like all, the IED lanes and stuff. And we had been training on everything, but we got our equipment there. So we were using the minesweepers and actually getting the real, like, cutting edge stuff. So we trained on all that. The food was really good. That was the funny thing about Leatherneck. We were only ever there for a short amount of times, but I think I gained 5 pounds each time I was there. Because the food is phenomenal.
Yeah.
They don't let you leave with too much. We were sneaking out Gatorades in our pockets and everything. And so we get all, set up there, and they load us up and they split us up. So what we ended up doing was they took all the section chiefs, because you have to be certified to be a section chief on an artillery piece. So you have to, have a safety card and all this other stuff. They took us and they considered us like a critical MOS. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the people that weren't section chiefs or they weren't section chiefs, or like the lower enlisted 0811s, were pulled and they were sent to these 2 patrol bases. So we had the main fire base and these 2 patrol bases, and they were doing patrols every day, getting in little shootouts and everything. And then we were at, For the life of me, I cannot remember the name of this fire base. It's been bugging me. It's come up a couple times in the last couple weeks, and I cannot remember it. But we were there. I remember, I think it had a British name because we used to joke it. We had the Channel, and what it was we had the, where the headquarters and like FDC and like the laundry and everything was. Like it was built up. We were bermed in, but it was built up. Yeah. And then a tunnel that was just a bermed in. It wasn't a tunnel. It was a spot between, it looked like a dumbbell from the air. Mm-hmm. And it was essentially a trip. It wasn't dug out. It was bermed in. So the walls were above you, and they called it the Channel. And the other side is where we lived, and that's where all the guns were. So we'd walk back and forth all the time. There was comms wires running between, because everything in artillery is hardwired. Right. So there's wires running. Sometimes we would lose comm at 2 a.m. to have some boot running out, trying to figure out where the cords broke. But we were there from April, basically, because we pretty much got right there, to probably like late July or sometime in August maybe, where we retooled, and I don't want to get too ahead, but we ended up leaving there. We left behind a contingent to kind of run everything, and we took 3 guns worth of Marines and all the stuff to support them. So like fire direction control, about half a battery we took to a different part of Afghanistan to support Marines that were pushing through a new area. But when we were there, it was mainly route security. So we did end up doing some route security in and out of Marja, which was super funny, grim funny, but funny nonetheless. Right. Actually absolutely hilarious from time to time. And just shot a lot of like smoke. And when we were there, the recon Marines learned that we had IR illum, which is the first time I'd ever seen it, but it's illum, but you just can't see with a naked eye.
That's pretty sweet.
Well, it was neat, and it's really funny. The stupid things that you remember about this. So I've got my, at the time, my iPod video, right? Because iPhones were out, but I didn't have one yet.
Right.
And we were sitting around, it's probably like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I was playing some song, right? And I bought a bug zapper. That was our entertainment. We hung up a bug zapper and we watched the bugs flying. We cut the grate so bigger bugs could get in and they'd catch on fire. Yeah, we were so bored. There was no we had like movies on our computers, but by then we had seen them all so many times that we didn't even want to watch them anymore. Yeah. We ended up buying stuff to do a baseball diamond. So we built a baseball diamond in the fire base. Anyway, this one night we get this fire mission, and it's 1 round of IR illum like every 10 minutes for 5 hours. No joke. I left a song playing, and we're out on the gun. There's no point in leaving. We're just out there, we're like half asleep. It's like, okay, get up, shoot the next one, whatever. It was very planned. Super boring. But then I get back, and I had like 3,000 plays or 300 plays of a stupid song. And for like a decade, it was my most played song ever. And it was from this one stupid night where I accidentally, because iTunes used to track it, and I don't use that anymore. Yeah. But it was a lot of that. It was illum, smoke. We did we didn't get in trouble. I think it was recon that got in trouble because we shot a danger close mission at like 18 and a half miles that they did not tell us was danger close. And so there's a section chief on an artillery piece. When it's a danger close mission, you have to get a little thing called the gunner quadrant, which looks like an old sextant or something. And you set it on the tube to make sure it is exactly at the right elevation. We didn't do that because we didn't know. And it was like 200, 300 meters from where they were. We were shooting HE at that distance. It was great mission. We did what we were supposed to, but we were like, you what?
That could have gone really bad.
At that many miles, like if you're a mil off, I can't do that math anymore, but that's bad.
Extrapolate it out.
Oh yeah. It's the math is, once you learn it, it's kind of terrifying how close we were. But yeah, so we did shoot one HE mission there, but the rest was all like smoke and illum. Route security. I had, again, I said it was kind of grim but funny, and the guy was fine, but we were doing route security in and out of Marja, which the Marines had already pushed through. So when we got there, it was the tail end of the push through Marja that was big in the news at the time. It wasn't as kinetic was the term they used. But there were still some firefights. We had Chechnyan snipers there, and one of my really good buddies got shot in the head in the helmet. It did not go through the helmet. He now owns a store called Gear Hound in Oceanside, and I think the Marine Corps actually let him keep the helmet, and as far as I know, he has it like behind the cash register. And I don't know if the Marines believe him anymore, but that knocked him. He was peeking it over an MRAP and bonk right off the head and went down. Wow. So we had that, but generally it was pretty safe.
Right.
We had given up a position though, because our officers were like, oh, we're going to move, whatever. That's a bad idea. And we did it. And the week goes by and we're going to take the position. So we had to go back and minesweep everything. And we're minesweeping everything. And this convoy comes through. And the guy in the lead vehicle was like a 7-ton with a mine roller. And hey, we were like, hey, bud, yeah, just so you're aware, like this route isn't secure, so just be careful, right? Because till this point, the road is being watched 24/7, so you're pretty safe. And he goes, F it, go big or go home. And like gets in the road, hits an IED maybe 200 yards down the road. He was fine.
Right.
The 7 tons are pretty high off the ground. But I'm like, if he had gotten hurt, that would have been the funniest like last words of like,
oh, yeah.
F it, go big or go home. I'm like, well, there you go.
I guess you're going home.
I guess you're going home. There wasn't a whole lot when we were there in Marja, depending on, we had a couple people get blown up with IEDs. No one got seriously hurt. This is the same time, so we took, our battery was up in Marja, and there was I think it was India battery, and the other batteries were down in Kajaki, which apparently was another very kinetic area. There was a couple people with that battery that got like bronze stars and stuff.
Yeah.
They were doing much more infantry type stuff. There was even a movie called Bravo 2 Kilo, but I think it's called Kajaki. It's a British movie. It's called Kajaki when they filmed it, or when they renamed it for U.S. release, and it didn't. It's a documentary that didn't go anywhere, but it was about that area and like all the mines. In the whole movie, it's like suspenseful. There's no combat. It's somebody steps in a mine, and they're realizing they're minefield, and they're trying to get people out, but there's mines everywhere. That was Kajaki. So, but we're in Marja, and then, like I said, probably like August, like late July, August, we get orders to move, and we're going to go to Sangin. So the British had been in Sangin. It was the most kinetic fighting the British. Sangin was the most kinetic fighting the Marine Corps experienced since Hue City, Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So they, I think it was 3-7, replaced the British infantry and completely changed how they were fighting in Sangin. And we came in a couple miles out and replaced the British artillery. So that's where we were shooting. Like, so we went back to Leatherneck, got the guns all set. There was 3 extra guns at Leatherneck. Did all of our, because you have to go through like sighting them in, doing muzzle velocity and stuff with the different powders and like calibrating the guns.
Right.
So we spent like a week or two doing that. I got super fat again. I probably ate ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, living it up.
Because ice cream's good.
Ice cream's delicious, and if they're going to give it to me, who am I to say no?
Right.
Did that. We go out, we get bermed in and sang in, and we had, one of our buddies had passed away a couple weeks prior, Sergeant Signs. So we built fire-based signs, which if you ever Google that, it's SAENZE. I don't know if there's that last E, but you can find stuff on it, but it's demolishing it.
Yeah.
So like a year and a half, 2 years later, they demolish it. So I can't see anything from when we built it, but I can see all these. I was like, I remember that. Like, it looks like home, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we were shooting up there every day, HE missions. We had Excalibur rounds, which were, I laugh because I used to do ordering for the battery, so I knew how to look stuff up. About $125,000 a pop, but they were GPS guided. So what you do is you'd shoot them at a super high elevation. So you'd lay on the target, load the round, elevate it, shoot it, and what it would do is it'd pop out of the tube, and fins would pop out of it. Mm-hmm. It'd pick up a satellite, and it'd guide itself back down. There's no rocket or anything, but it would guide itself back onto the target. And you could hit a 10-digit grid at like 18, 19 miles, which is wild. So you could hit a spot this big. And when the grunts found out about that and Sangin, like we were shooting 2 or 3 of those every day, to the point that we ran out of them and had to get the Army's like they were still like the XM rounds. They were the same, but they were like the first batch of these rounds. Right. We had to get those from the Army because we had gone through all of ours. Because essentially what they were doing in Sangin was they were doing these patrols. The Air Force had given them a couple like blimps, right, with cameras on them. Mm-hmm. So they would sit there, somebody in a little tent would follow the patrol on this camera and be like, oh, hold up. Somebody's setting up a machine gun 2 or 3 blocks up. They could pull the grid from the camera, run a fire mission down to us, and you could drop around right between buildings without hurting the buildings, and the patrol would never even know they were there. They were being told, that, like, hold up, somebody's setting up an ambush for you. So we were doing that every day, which was neat to tell stories about from an artillery standpoint. It's super annoying because they're all high elevation, so you got to crank that gun up. Yeah. And you can't load it at that, so you got to load it and then crank that gun up. But it was cool because the round would correct, so you could shoot. If you were the city and I was the gun, I would actually aim like out of you. So if the round failed, it wouldn't land in the city and either blow up and hurt civilians or become an IED. Right. So you'd shoot this way and it'd correct. But it was wild. It went up so high that they actually had to clear it with the FAA because it hit civilian airspace where jets flying over Afghanistan. I don't know how many jets were flying over Afghanistan. Presumably some, They would use like essentially it was AOL Instant Messenger, but secure, to route it all the way that way and then all the way back down to us. And these missions would take forever, and we'd have to sit around waiting, and then we could load. And like, okay, quick, set the fuse, load it,
Right.
get it up as quick as you can, and hope they don't cancel it, because then you got to punch the stupid thing out. They never did that, but it was a lot of that. I got blown up a few times when we were there. Some smaller ones, a really big one that was probably like a 120 pounder. Got my gunner medevaced. I lost consciousness for a little bit, but generally fine. I did the check-in for everything.
Yeah, is everything there?
Well, my door blew off, and I'm like, I lost consciousness, so I'm coming back up, and I'm just in like this cloud of smoke. I'm like, oh, God, it happened. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I start feeling for stuff. I was like, okay, I'm good. And my gun, says the vehicle commander, my gunner's like slumped over. He'd hurt his back. He's fine now. Like, the story's happy in the end. But we had to medevac him out because we didn't obviously know what was wrong with him. And that was funny, because it's like anything else in the military. It's really exciting that it's not for a really long time.
Yeah.
So we got blown up, and then we had to sit around for 9-10 hours for Air Force EOD to show up to, one, collect the vehicle and do a crater analysis. And the crater analysis was them going, yep, it's an IED, like 120 pounds. I don't know. Good luck. Because this is 2010. By then, they don't they're just checking it and, probably logging where it is on the map. It was pretty anticlimactic. And then we drove back, and I was on limited duty for like 2 weeks. I couldn't be around blast, but I slept 50 yards from an artillery cannon. Like,
Right, if you're going to get a TBI, it's probably from your own stuff.
yeah, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So by the last couple, because that was October 20th, because you remember the date, that was October 20th, 2010, and we left like mid-November. So basically the last couple weeks of the deployment was me sitting around doing nothing. They sent the one guy home, finally, that guy that got shot in the head. He came with us. They finally sent him home because he was getting weird. Like, he's fine now, but he had some brain injury stuff going on. He got sent home. They kept us there for a little while, and then we all just went back together. We got replaced with whatever battery replaced us. Remember, actually, it was a 10th Marines battery, so it was the East Coast, and one of the guys in that unit was in boot camp with me.
Oh, wow.
And we ran into each other. I can't remember his name to this, but that happens later. It's like, I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your face is
welcome.
familiar. I don't know what your name is, but you look familiar.
Yep, we put it together, and like, all right, it was the changing of the guard, right? That deployment was, there's a lot more to talk about there. There's so much like wild stuff we did, so much weird stuff we saw. It was beautiful. That's the one thing when I talk to people about Afghanistan that I really like. It saddens me as a human that we cannot visit that place of the world because of the geopolitical climate, because it is truly gorgeous. Like when I was in the MEU, that happened, but you can go a lot of those places. You can go to Dubai. You can go to Guam, obviously, You can't really go to Afghanistan. Right, especially now. Maybe a couple years ago, I don't know. It was probably still recommended against. But that's my biggest thing with that, is just how absolutely gorgeous parts of it were that we drove through. And it's really a shame. It's a shame. That's a much bigger conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was I would say, like, again, talking about the Navy aspect of it, the deployment itself, it felt quicker because we didn't feel like we were trapped on ship for 8 months.
You were doing stuff.
We were doing stuff. Yeah, it was fun. It sucked. It didn't suck. It was, everything in between. It was funny. It was horrible. We had a lot of people hit IEDs. Pretty much everyone was fine. We lost a handful of people, mainly with India battery, because they were getting in so many like firefights and stuff.
Yeah.
We lost a few, but not like them. We ended up getting combat replacements, which was really cool because they brought new music and movies with them. You don't think about stuff like that, but then
you don't.
Some random person shows up 5 months into a deployment with a bunch of albums that came out while you were gone and like episodes of shows, and you're like, no. You bring your hard drive over here, buddy.
They're super popular.
They're super popular.
Oh, yeah.
It was hilarious. People were like, oh, these new guys are great. They bring with them technology that we did not have.
Right.
They were pretty cool, too.
I think, too, you don't, so I served in the Navy and the Army. And then my deployment to Mosul, Iraq was 12 months.
Yeah.
But even at 6 or 9 or 12 months, it's crazy how the world goes on.
It really
You're in the freaking Stone Ages where you're at. And when you get back, you're like, when did this happen?
Right. Was the joke in Generation Kill where they keep laughing about J-Lo being dead or something? Because you don't know what's going on generally.
Right.
We did have the internet when we were in Marja. It was not fast. It was, I don't know if you're a hockey guy, but I remember sitting there waiting, like, it had to be like 30 minutes for the stupid video to load. And it was when the Blackhawks beat the Flyers and Patrick Kane scored like an overtime winner. And I'm just like waiting for the stupid thing to load on Facebook. So we did have stuff, but it it's also older technology than it is today.
Well, you're saying Facebook. When I was deployed, it was MySpace.
Yep. No,
back in the day.
We had some stuff, but like when we went to Sangin, I mean, we had one sat phone we were sharing. Like, you know, I got to talk to my family. You know, once we were there for a little while, you could pretty much get it whenever you wanted. Like, no one was like, there wasn't a waiting list that long, but at least for the first week or two, but yeah, I could grab it at, you know, wake up and like, we'll do it at 1 o'clock in the morning because it'll be 10 a.m. there tomorrow. I don't remember what the conversion was. But we did have that, so I got to talk to my family, but there wasn't like, we barely got mail. We did not get mail when we were in Sangin. We brought some with us that was already delayed, so when we got there and set up, we got a big mail call. Yeah. But the rest of the, you know, September, October, November, we didn't have mail or anything for 2.5 months. Which it sounds like it wasn't, it was fine. We were busy. It was just weird because we were just literally drove out in the middle of nowhere. They bermed us in and they're like, good luck.
Yeah.
Bye.
There's no zip code here.
Well, it was where we were in relation to Sangin was wild because we were in line. So we had like the A-10s doing gun runs over top of us. So we were starting the gun runs over top of us. The F-15, same things with the bombing runs. And we were close enough where we could hear the small arms fire all day. Yeah. So like a couple miles out really, because there's not a lot there, you know, the sound carries quite a ways. This is probably 4, 5, 6 miles. I don't know if I had to guess today. That seems reasonable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting for sure, and it was neat to, I would say, like the deployment was kind of neat to see how little I could get by on. It wasn't like a personal contest, but literally I lived in a hole I dug in the ground for 2.5 months in a tent that you put in the hole in case we got mortared. We had a generator. I could still charge some of my stuff. I could watch movies. Back to the cook thing, we had a brand new cook that we picked up in Leatherneck for the second half of the deployment. It's from Novi. I became friends with him later. I can't remember his name now. I lost track. I got rid of my Facebook in 2017. Yeah. He did not know what he was doing, and he got like a 2-month supply of the McRib. Like, it wasn't called the McRib, but it was like the big sea rat things. Yeah. And it was like, dog, you know you can get different meals, right? So all we had was breakfast or the McRib. So I was eating MREs pretty exclusively, or what I did was I had it down to, it was either beef enchilada, because you could mix everything in the bowl and eat it all together. It was pretty good. And no one liked it. So I could have all the beef enchiladas I could eat. Or I had like a massive supply of ramen. I was using the heating packets to make the ramen in the little drink bag in my tent at night. Which sounds depressing thinking about it, but it's actually like, I'm fully, like, it was sort of like the guy that like disappeared into the wilderness. I can live off of ramen and other nutrients for a pretty impressively long time, I think. I learned that about myself.
Well, I think you get to the point, too, that, like, food is just fuel.
Yeah.
Right? It's not anything to enjoy. You're just eating it to keep going.
Well, and the funny thing, it's funny you mention that, because then when we left, the way we did our, whatever the term, the Marine Corps, the fancy term, we left, right? So we left one gun at a time. So the first day, my gun was the first to go. And the second day, the second gun, the third day, the third gun, and then the rest of the battery. Or the half the battery. So we were the first ones to get back to Camp Leatherneck. The staff sergeant went with us and like a whole gun worth of Marines and a couple other guys. I think I took like a 45-minute shower. I was not tan. I thought I was tan. It was just dirt. I went and got, at the time, Axe made a body wash that was called Snake Peel, and it had like exfoliators in it. And I think I went through like half a bottle in one of those shower things. It was a warm shower. It was the first time I'd taken a shower in probably 3 months. We had like water bottles and just kind of like trying our best. And the food, and that's when I really got, I didn't say get into trouble, I lost all the weight right away, but I was going like to the DFAC like a lot. And then that was right when that like year or two when the US really pushed back and took all of the fast food off the base, but the British didn't. So you just had to hop on the bus, you go over to Camp Bastion, they had Pizza Hut, like a little tea shop, a convenience store.
Taco Bell.
Everything was over there. Oh, I was living it up, especially for like the first day or two when it was just us and that staff sergeant that didn't care what we did. And we had just gotten out of a pretty rough deployment, so like the command was pretty chill anyway. But that week of getting out of Sangin and sitting at Leatherneck where it was arguably pretty safe and just having all that good food back again, and like I could go to the store. Granted, it wasn't like being back home, but like I could go to a store and buy snacks, I could buy socks, I could It was like, this is amazing. The funniest thing happened while we were there, and I don't want to be too graphic, it's not that bad, but there was me and 2 other buddies, and we were walking to like breakfast or something, and one of them's in the porta potty. You can hear him. And we had our hands in our pockets. And we had just gotten out of like, I mean, we were, like shootouts and stuff, like, right. They say like kind of the cowboy stuff, right? And this, it was an air wing, like sergeant major. He's probably like the command sergeant major for like the Marine Air Ground, whatever. Like he was important. Comes by and he's yelling at us, my hands in our pockets, and we're just like, yes, master, or like for first or master sergeant, wherever he was. And the whole time you can hear my boy going to the bathroom in the porta potty, just audibly behind us. And it was one of those moments that I'm never going to forget for as long as I live, of like the funniest. Could you take a break from yelling at us and just appreciate how funny this is right now?
No sense of humor.
No sense of humor. I was like, this is just great. Yeah. That like last week was fantastic because we just kind of relaxed. I remember sitting by myself. It was like the first time I'd been by myself in so long, because where we were, you always had a battle buddy with you. And in Leatherneck, it was pretty relaxed. We didn't have ammo anymore. They took our ammo. We didn't need it anymore. And I was sitting on a bus riding over to Bastion, and the Yellow by Coldplay came on. I just remember sitting there and just being like, I think I'm good. Like, I made it. Like, I was still in country, but like, no, I'm pretty safe here. That would have been the great irony of getting like mortared right there. It clearly didn't. But that last week was just very like, almost like therapeutic, not in like a serious sense, but just like relax and unwind and take a 45-minute shower because I can.
Yeah.
I saw a woman for the first time in 8 months. Like, it was just weird, like that process. And that was Afghanistan. There's probably a lot more that I can talk about there. I remember, you work through memories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you came, what was it like coming back from Afghanistan?
Very, honestly, similar to the first deployment. It was a lot of catching up. I think both times, and it's funny you asked that, I just remembered this. I think both times I probably stayed up for like 48 hours when I got back because I was so inundated with stuff. Like, I wasn't tired. I remember getting back from the first deployment and going to my apartment that my wife at the time had like got. I think I saw pictures of it, but like I'm sitting in this apartment I've never been in. Went to In-N-Out Burger. Couldn't sleep. I watched a bunch of movies. I like worked on my music, did a bunch of stuff, like organized files, like started going through pictures, and all of a sudden it was 6 a.m. and I'm like, all right, into the next day. And finally it took me like a day and a half to finally fall asleep. I'm sure I was tired, even from traveling.
Yeah.
And the second deployment was the same thing, probably not quite as bad, but that one was more of like that home, like we saw on TV a lot more, because the Mew was weird because we were right off the coast and we were working. So like we were spending the day bringing the guns off ship, doing all the stuff. And then we finally got done and it was like, okay, here's your family. You're on the parade deck, whatever. The second one, because we flew back, Leatherneck to Anchorage, I think, or Fairbanks. It was really funny because we got back and they wouldn't let us out of the terminal. And there's a whole bunch of people on the other side of the glass and just all these Marines that are sitting in there hungry. Because we didn't have it was like being at the zoo, but we were the exhibit, right?
Yeah.
And then we flew to March, and they picked us up at March in all those vans, the white Marine Corps vans, and then drove us back to the parade deck. And it was like, carry on with the plan of the day, go on, on Libo, basically, bye. And I think we got like a 4-day weekend, and then we came back, and then went on block leave. So it was much more like theatrical. It wasn't theatrical, I don't know if I want to use that term, but it was more of like you're back, you're done, have a good weekend, see you next Wednesday or whatever.
Right.
Whereas the Mew was functionally the same because we, went on probably like a 96 or something and came back, but it didn't, the Mew felt different.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there is a difference between what a regular like deployment, Navy deployment, and a combat deployment. I mean, just the whole thing is going to be just a different vibe.
And that's probably a great way to describe it because, like, quite literally, I mean, you leave the Fifth Fleet, you're not in any real danger. I mean, accidents can happen. People get hurt all the time, but there's not, you're not going to hit an IED, between Hawaii and here.
Trying to blow you up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so the feeling of coming back was very different. It reminds me, like, especially with what I do now and like talking about like World War II vets and their experience of like that transition period of just physically getting back to the States versus Vietnam, where they'd pick you up, put you on a plane, be dropped off at an airport in California, and you were in a firefight 48 hours ago. Ours was certainly not that bad coming back from Afghanistan, but the Mew was, several weeks of floating across the Pacific. When you finally get there, it's very anticlimactic climactic, right?
Right.
Whereas, again, with Afghanistan, it was nice. It was more ceremonial. The cool thing about that one, I got hooked up, is I took the second block leave, so I got to keep a bunch of gear. So we got back, got our 96 or whatever, came back to work, and then did probably like a day or two, if I had to like guess, like of just base maintenance, like put everything away.
Yeah.
And then the first group left. Well, I did the remain behind. So we stayed behind and cleaned the gear, like really put everything away for real. And then they came back, and then I went on leave. And when they came back, they turned in all their gear that they got, and no one ever asked us for that. So I ended up with a bunch of free stuff. They went to the field right away for some reason, and I didn't have to go to that. And I remember staying in my apartment in Vista this time. I lived just right next to Oceanside, and getting all these texts because somebody lost a pair of NVGs, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and they're up at the gun park, like getting yelled at. And I'm like, sucks to suck. I was like, I'm watching TV at home right now. Enjoy. That was a pretty good hookup. And then the rest of my Marine Corps career, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. But again, we went right into another deployment. It was just after I was getting out. So I had, this would have been, November of 2010, and I got out on terminal December of 2012. So I had about 13 months from the end of my last deployment. I got out in March.
So you did like a 4-year hitch.
I did 4-year, yep.
Yeah.
So we got wind of that next deployment, which I can't for the life of me remember. I mean, you kind of detached from it, right? I don't know where the heck they went. Probably another MEU. They didn't have anything for us to do. So I ended up spending a lot of those last like 12, 13 months training. We were the first battery on the West Coast to get a mortar system that the Marine Corps has since gotten rid of. But they were fielding a 120 millimeter towed mortar that was like a quasi-French system, but the U.S. used it. But it was so big it had to be towed. So they got us these vehicles. They were really cool. They looked like little Jeeps. They ended up in some video games, but no one knows about them anymore. But they really did look like a little Willys Jeep. And an inline 4 turbo diesel, and it was designed, the entire system is really cool from like a design standpoint. It was designed to fit in an Osprey. And the goal was the Marine Corps wanted a system they could put on ships and very easily load up a raid force and bring 3, 4, 5, 6 guns ashore with the grunts, shorter range, but the whole truck, the entire system could be backed up into an Osprey and driven right off and then driven right back onto it. So the vehicles were super fun. I actually never really learned the mortar system because they didn't want me to. I was taking up space for the next generation.
Someone who could do it.
So they made me a driver, which was hilarious because I was a senior NCO. Like I wasn't getting into, I was kind of in charge, and all I had to do was drive a stupid truck that you could crab walk it. It had a joystick, so you could fold everything down. We had to the point where we were still developing the technical manual, so we had the civilians with us when we were doing some driving on the beach, and they were like, "Try to break it," and I flipped the trailer. Because I was driving through the surf, it felt super fast, probably like 30, 40 miles an hour. And we hit a hole that we didn't know was there, and it rolled the ammo trailer that was full of concrete. It wasn't dangerous. And I had to watch all these civilians try to winch this thing back over in the surf on the beach. And then they sent me down to Del Mar, which is on Pendleton, but it's where the tracks are, because they were testing for the TM, the technical manual, where they were going to use the AAVs to tow these or store them. So they have to do that because they go in the water. You have to configure them all these different ways. They lift the whole thing with like a crane, and they use like these scopes to figure out where the middle of it is. So if it rolls, it'll correct itself. Way over my pay grade. Wow. I got to sit down there for like 2 weeks. Every morning I'd bring the guns to Del Mar. They'd do the stuff with them. I'd be like, okay, yep, let's put them on. I had like a couple PFCs with me. Put it on, strap it down. Okay, we sit around. I got to eat burritos all day. I got to hang out in the water and watch a whole bunch of like senior enlisted and officers write a technical manual. And they didn't have anything for me to do. So then finally, probably like, so I got it in March, probably like October, November, they sent me to headquarters, got rid of all of us. So they sent me to headquarters battery. A lot of my buddies went, they did like gate guard. If they didn't like you, you went to gate guard. I had a buddy that got to go be a pistol instructor for the last like 5 months. It was pretty chill. I went to headquarters battery, and in artillery, there's no use for an 0811 in headquarters, but they need one. It's the battery gunny. Any other 0811, there's no purpose for, there's no role for you.
Right.
And he was cool. Like he was like, hey, you got to go to SIF to turn in your gear, right? And I'm getting out in like 4 months. I'm like, sure, Gunny? Like, yeah. He's like, all right, see you next week. And I'm like, noted, bye. Like, so I spent a week cleaning my gear, turning it in. And then they put me in charge of all the people that were in trouble. So it was like the first half of the day, I would make sure they were mowing or like doing some menial punishment that
Painting
was
rocks.
painting. Honest to God, painting rocks. That was one of the things.
Yeah.
And then they'd kick me out by like 1 or 2 every day. So I started playing hockey for the Camp Pendleton hockey team, which has grown since then. When I was doing it, it was like a men's league team,
right.
Associated with the Marine Corps vaguely. Got to do that. I met a whole bunch of guys that were like air wingers, MPs, Intel, and I was like, oh, your job, like I could re-enlist if I was doing, because like the Intel guys are like, hey, we got out of work at like every day, like 2, go, do. I'm like, God, there's a different Marine Corps depending on what your MOS is, right? Did that, and then I was going through the process of getting hired by the LAPD, and I got the job offer in like December, and I had just barely like mathematically worked it out to where I was going to accrue additional leave to the point of I could get out at the end of December and go do my academy class. So I took terminal leave like mid-December, got out in March, and got my honorable discharge in 2016, my little paper in the mail, and called it good. Never looked back. I mean, obviously, I still keep caught up with some of the people, but yeah, that was sort of it was just like, it really is like breakneck speed the whole time. Got to the fleet, deployed, got back from deployment, deployed again, got back, and that was really the only downtime, and it was simply because I was not deploying with the unit again. There was much lower stakes for me. I just changed training the next group, and they even made me, I did the stupidest stuff on the way out is they were running out of people for stuff. So they had me go get a Humvee license like 5-6 months before I was getting out because they needed an extra driver to drive the XO around. So for like 2 field ops, I was the XO's driver, which it was a pretty chill job. Like he was cool. I'd drive him around. We'd pull into the position. I'd set up his camo netting, sit around until somebody noticed I was there, and they'd yell at me to go down to the gun line. So I didn't have a job down there, so I'd just sit on the back of the ammo trailer and like record people for their YouTube videos. And then I'd go back to the Exos truck, and yeah, it was a good deal.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like
They made me a Humvee driver. They sent me for my explosives ordnance driving for the mortar system, which again, I never actually drove those, but they sent me for that, and that was like a week-long school. All kinds of random stuff. I got to go, I went to, earlier, kind of backing up, I went to section chief school to become a section chief, and then they sent me to school to become a heavy weapons instructor, so I taught the 50 cal, the Mark 19, the 240, technically the SAW, but that was, people that carried a SAW learn how to shoot it themselves.
Right.
Grenades fell under that. So like I had this random range where we pulled too many grenades from the ammo point, and instead of trying to turn them in because it was a pain, I threw like 40 grenades one day. Yeah. Like, this is weird stuff. Like the whole experience was weird. Like explaining it to somebody that wasn't in the military, it's not like you just don't get it. It was just like some of it is so weird.
You had to be there to understand it.
You don't understand the stupidity of some of the stuff. Like it really makes sense once it clicks, but if you don't have that background, like some of this stuff, you did what? It's like, that doesn't even make sense. It's like, no, it does.
It was easier to throw 40 grenades than to turn them back in.
It really was.
It's the truth.
Like, that is nonsense to a person that because they're not cheap either. No. Those are your tax dollars. There you go. Another grenade for you. Everybody
the armor doesn't want to mess with taking them back, and you don't want to do the paperwork, and so let's just...
Yeah, it's like 3 p.m. on a Thursday, and everybody wants to go home, get to throwing grenades.
Each one of you throw 10 of these will be good.
That's pretty much how it went down.
Yeah.
That was a fun school, though. It was really annoying because they made us carry a lot of stuff that you would never carry in real life. Like, no one's... actually, I say no one. It does happen, but no one's really, like, hiking with a 50 cal.
No.
Like, but they made us. So, like, I remember that kind of stupidity. I was in great shape from those. All the schools were cool because the PT that would go along with it. Sucked when you were doing it, but looking back, especially as an older guy now, it was worth it. It was worth it, yeah.
So did you end up going to the LAPD Academy?
Yep. I worked for the LAPD for a little over a year. Decided that wasn't the life for me. Honestly, it's the stupidest thing because people that want to be a cop will look at you like you're crazy. And it's like, no, LAPD was great. Doing the job was great. Living in LA was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
For me to buy a house, I remember me and a couple of my buddies started looking. You're going to have to live in Castaic, Canyon Country. If you don't know LA, it's like north of LA, and like north of the valley, like no longer in the city of LA. And you're looking at an hour and a half commute one way easily every single day. And the houses are terrible. If you've ever seen, you probably know what I'm talking about, but Weeds, those shows where you see rolling and every house is identical and every fifth house is a Crown Victoria in the driveway. You can tell who's living in these neighborhoods. And I just I want to go back to school. I ended up
So are you divorced now?
I got remarried.
But I mean, you were divorced at 5 years. Time.
I was still married then. I got divorced when I moved back to Michigan. It didn't work out, and But moved back to Michigan, went back to school, started working at higher ed. I got divorced in 2020, and then remarried in the very end of 21. And our 5-year anniversary was just about a month ago. I was like,
you better not forget.
No, it was July 29th. And I was just, what's today's date? So just about a month ago.
She's going to watch this and go, what do you mean?
Well, it was funny. I used to, my ring broke. It shattered. I had one of those tungsten ones and I whacked it on something and it broke. But I used to laugh because it had the anniversary date on the inside. So I couldn't forget.
Right.
I'm pretty good about that. But like, I was always like, July, 29th. Got it. I had it. That was my shortcut.
So LAPD, LAPD was just kind of a blip.
Well, and I wanted it to be more than that because my family wasn't, but it just wasn't for me. Like I was decent at it, but it just, again, the housing and living there was such a challenge, and I wanted to go back to school, and I started doing online school, and I'm like, nope, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be a nurse. You see how that worked out. Going to go back and be a nurse, and I laugh. I just did a podcast with an organization we work with, and it was about that part of my life. Yeah. It was really funny. I'll follow up with that one, right? But it was, going back to school and getting all that support and, using my GI Bill benefits, and the new chapter in my life where I had my first job in a long time where no one was shooting at me or generally wanted to harm me. It was great working in higher ed. I went from being, working in the jail to Marine Corps with combat deployments to being a cop. I needed a break.
But isn't it hard not to be shot at?
It's fine now.
Well, So I remember. So my experience was a little bit different. Like I deployed, but I was in the Army National Guard, so I deployed for a year. I came home 2 weeks after stepping off the battlefield. I'm driving back to work.
Oh yeah.
It was a very weird experience to not have that stuff go on. But it sounds like maybe you were able to transition.
Yeah, I had
slowly.
A lot of buffers. Yeah, and LAPD wasn't anything like that. Like there was stuff, but it wasn't. It was very different from being in a combat deployment, right? And I had so much transition time that like. Even from not being a cop, so the way that worked out is I resigned, but I had a really good hookup with some folks from the chief's office, and I kept doing security in North Beverly Hills basically for another couple months after that. Yeah. So I went from being that to doing security for like celebrities that Reba, Eddie Murphy, trying to think of like just all kinds of super famous people. It was pretty chill. Like there wasn't really like crime up there, right? So I had a lot of transition periods. I would say it was boring. When I moved back to Michigan, I had like an itch and I'm like, I'm going to talk to the state police. Cause again, my family has all these connections. There's this guy, he was a recruiter. He's like, oh, we'll get you back. And you still got to go through the academy again and everything cause there's no reciprocity. It was interesting cause LAPD doesn't have reciprocity with anyone either. But I think like their training was much longer. I think it was 18 total months with 6 months of the academy, 12 months of a field training officer, whereas most of the stuff around here is much shorter. Then I asked the guy, I was like, would I get tased and pepper sprayed again? He was like, yeah. I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. I would get pepper sprayed again. I would not get tased again. That was the worst pain.
That's the deal breaker.
It was, it's like 10 seconds. I was like, I don't think I can bring myself to do it. That tick, 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 tick still makes me like.
My buddy was the chief of police for Battle Creek.
Oh, yeah.
And he says the same thing. Like when he got tased, it gave him like a migraine headache. And he said his guys would like sneak up behind him and just make the tick, tick, tick sound. He'd be like,
it was horrible.
Like, that was some severe PTSD right there.
It was the worst pain because the way they did it is the LAPD has probably about 60 people that go through an academy every month. And it's just backfilling. It's about 10,000 sworn officers. So you're backfilling retirements, everything, right? It's a machine. It's a well-oiled machine. Very familiar, too, if you come from the military. I think I had to learn the history now. I can't remember. I think it was like in the 50s, 60s. The entire department base got redesigned by like a retired Marine Corps general that built, it's like 4 bureaus, 21 divisions, and these 4 bureaus, if you're familiar with the military, it's comfortable. But so it was like every month a new class of 50, 60 started, and because you'll see the videos of people getting tased and they shoot it at them. They don't have the money to do that there. So they'd take a lead and put it in the top of your boot and the other one in your pocket, and you'd have 2 people holding your arms. You're like, ready, and they do it, and that was like 10, it's 5 seconds? Whatever it was too long, of like the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. Like getting pepper sprayed sucks and it lasts a while. It sticks and it hurts.
Oh yeah, it's not that bad.
But it's not that bad. Like it burns. I can sit there with my eyes closed and it just doesn't burn for a little while. I would take that over getting tased, the 10 seconds of that pain over getting pepper sprayed 10 out of 10 times.
Oh yeah.
And like I had a lot of other stuff going on at the time. Like I was going back to school. I wasn't like, that wasn't the only deciding factor. But when they were like, yeah, you got to go through that again, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
So did you move back to Flushing?
Yes, close. So we moved back to Swartz Creek, I guess it was technically. It was weird. I had like a Swartz Creek address, but I lived in this town that no one had heard of. But basically, it's another suburb of Flint. Okay. I went to U of M Flint. This is a lot of years here, but we went back to U of M Flint, moved around. I lived there. I lived in Davison for a little while, got my undergrad, started working in the veterans office when I was getting my undergrad. And right when I was about to graduate, the person that was a coordinator of that office left and took a job with the state of Michigan at Michigan State. I got appointed basically the interim coordinator, did that for about 6 months. She left Michigan. So actually, at the end of that 6 months, I got a job in Metro Detroit working for Walsh College. It's a small private nonprofit business school. A lot of people, if you've heard of it, you know about it. If you haven't, you have no idea.
I've heard of Walsh College.
Yeah, right there in Troy.
Yeah.
They have like one of the best tax programs in the country, but that's not super exciting for like 18-year-olds. No. So it's not a really popular school. Worked there for about 3.5, 4-ish years. And then Sarah, who was my boss at U of M Flint that went to Michigan State, left Michigan State. I applied and got that position and started in 2018. And I've been there ever since. So I really just kind of transitioned that into that. And like I said, now I have a job where no one's shooting at me. Everybody seems to like me, which is, having done so many of those shitty jobs throughout my career, it's very nice to be in a position where you get to help people very directly. Some of those other jobs, you kind of do depending on how you look at it, but everybody usually leaves happy, which is much better for my, mental health, right?
Well, when I went to Central Michigan, their veterans
it's great.
Department there is just like, I didn't know how to use my GI Bill dollars. I didn't know how to sign up for classes.
No.
I didn't know
Walk you through everything.
Yeah,
it's
they
great.
held my hand.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
It's wonderful. It's a very rewarding job, and we're not competitive. So, I'll talk to vets all the time, but I always laugh. It's like, don't tell admissions this. I tease. I work with admissions. But, my job isn't to, I'm not a recruiter. I'm not trying to trick people into coming to Michigan State. It's like, we're here for you. If you think this is a good fit, we will bend over backwards to make sure this is your transition's good, you have everything you need, you know how to use your benefits, and if it's not a good fit, I'll walk you to Central Michigan, I'll take you up to Duane. I actually think he retired recently, but I'd take you up to Duane, so maybe Central Michigan's a better fit for you, or we'll get, especially because it's Michigan State, we'll get people that want to go here because they grew up in Michigan, and it's like, well, you want this program, we don't even offer it. It's like, you really should look at Western or something, right? And then some of them was, I just want to come. It's like, okay, cool, but we get to walk vets through this process. This is my whole job. Monday through Friday, helping people get out of the military, transition back to school, or, it's wild. I get people that, like me, that served and have been out for a while. I get people that are currently serving. We got our first student that is using, I'm going to get this acronym wrong. It's like ACE. It's like Army something education, where he is, I think he was like an F-22, F-35 pilot, and he's in logistics now, and he's coming back to get a supply chain management master's, and the Army's paying him. He's still active duty. This is going to be his duty station for 2 years.
Wow.
And we just got approved to take money from that program. I get to help out these guys that are, active duty, senior officers to some brand new 18-year-old that just joined the Guard and has benefits and they don't know how to use them.
Right.
It's phenomenal. And it's been interesting for me because, I kind of walked you through the last, 15 years of my life as I went from being an active duty Marine and all the stuff that comes with that and all the, bravado and, I laugh, why do you pick the Marine Corps? It's because of the commercial they get you, to having to understand and work with every single branch at every single level, whether you're, Space Force now or your Army Guard or, because I laugh, 21-year-old me would have teased somebody that was in the Guard. No, I get this now. This is
right.
And it's kind of come full circle that I get to work with every possible, even stuff that people forget, and I'm going to forget the name of it. I think it's the United States, health, Public Health Corps. So I'm getting this wrong. Do not. But they even get GI. You know what I'm talking about? They even get GI Bill benefits, and I get the odd one of those that come through. So everything, and it's really neat to work with these transitioning service members or people that are going in or serving, and draw from that experience the stuff that I had, but really help them get through that and get to the education side of it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it.
So tell me about meeting your wife.
Oh yeah. We met online with a dating app. that was the big one. We ended up getting married in Vegas, which was super fun. But we met, I got divorced and then started dating sort of kind of, and just kind of ran into each other and took it from there. And it was funny because we got along and we still get along. So it worked out in the long run, but we met right before COVID. Mm-hmm. So then we were like, I got an apartment and we were thinking about moving in together, and then COVID was like, hey, you just move in. So we just basically got trapped together for that year, and
really got to
know each other. And we were gonna, it was funny, I laughed because we got married in Vegas. We got married at Taco Bell in Vegas.
Awesome.
Which part of me is like, I wish we could have done something fancier, but the problem was it was still COVID. Right. So what we were going to do, because it was both of our second marriages, was we were going to elope and go to like Banff, because we had both been to Banff up in Canada. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But we couldn't get across the border. And it was like, oh, they're going to open it. And we're planning on it. We've got a photographer, and then they cancel it. It's not open anymore. So after a while, and she didn't have health insurance. So after a while, we're like, you know what? Let's just do something fun. My youngest brother, the one that's the diver, we were somewhere together, and we saw like an article about the Taco Bell cantina. It was like $500 and you can get married there. And I thought it was hilarious because we like Taco Bell.
Yeah, because why not?
Yeah, why not, right?
Why not Taco Bell?
So, and it was like, well, we're going to go to Vegas. You could do like, the Elvis wedding or whatever, but like Taco Bell's kind of fun and no one else does it. So we paid I don't know, it was $500, whatever it was. They have an officiant, they have an upstairs chapel. So it is more legit than you think it is. You're not at like the Taco Bell over in Frandor in the lobby, right? Like it's nicer.
It's still Taco Bell.
It's still Taco Bell. It is still Taco Bell. But they have like a chapel, like lit bell thing in like the upstairs area that they reserve for you. Yeah. And you get a Mr. and Mrs. Taco shirt.
Sweet.
You get a Cinnabon cake. And they have an officiant that has, like, we did our vows, but she had some really funny vows that were Taco Bell related. And all of our friends and family were there, like our close friends. And then we had we did photos after, and we had a really nice reception at like a really famous, fancy tiki place. My wife's really into tiki. Mm-hmm. So like it was perfect for us with the time and, everything that was going on in the world. But I like telling people I got married at Taco Bell because it definitely gets a reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Usually funny, but sometimes people are like, really? And I'm like, it would, yeah, but not whatever you're thinking, probably not that.
Right. I'm more of a, I got to hear this story kind of guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's very cool.
Well, and it's gotten more popular because I saw it in social media recently. Again, people are talking about it, and I'm like, I did it. It's pretty cool. Like, if you're going to do that type of a wedding, it's clearly not the same as like, putting a lot of effort and time into something very fancy. Like, obviously, it's not that. But if your options are Vegas and you've got these neat little venues, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Taco Bell Cantina also had alcohol, so we got like included in our package were like Baja Blast slushies with like tequila in them and stuff. Right. So it was silly. We had our photographer there, so we got all kinds of really fun, nice photos of that, and then we did photos all around the strip, the old strip too, which was nice. There's a lot of neons, and the guy lived.
So cool.
Well, and it was funny. So I had met some random guy. His name is Devin. I'm friends with him now online, right? And we'd been friends for a while. He served in the Army. He was a combat medic, or a medic. He's a medic in the Army with a couple combat deployments. And he lived in Vegas, and his close friend from high school was a wedding photographer. So we got a local wedding photographer that knew all the cool places on the old strip, all the back alleys that you can see. That and it was actually really nice. The ceremony at Taco Bell, for as silly as this whole story is, was really just like a minor piece of it. Everything else was great. Yeah. We laughed. We were at the tiki place, and it's Vegas, right? So it never rains. If it rains on your wedding day, it's supposed to be good luck. Well, we were in the loading dock behind the tiki place, just her and I just back there chatting. Like, it started raining on us in Vegas on our wedding night in this loading dock, and it was just sort of nice.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm cautious to tell that story because I don't want to be judged by people, but like, if I have the time to explain, it was actually really nice.
Yeah.
And again, it was a product of what we kind of had to do because we didn't have to do it, whatever. But like, we wanted to get married, and all of our cool options were basically not on the table because the border was closed. So we talked about doing maybe like a nice 10-year anniversary, like doing a big reception, something that we kind of missed with our wedding, but we'll see.
I feel like you'll have to have Taco Bell served.
Oh, for the bit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at least the Cinnabon. Like, if she doesn't let me do that, I'm in a riot because I think it's just too funny not to
or at least
acknowledge
maybe
it.
A Cinnabon layer on your cake, or just something.
Or like do colors, and the colors like the 90s Taco Bell colors or something. So that might be she might not go for that one.
Yeah, you gotta give a nod to Taco Bell.
It's neat. It's neat. I don't know a single other person that got married at Taco Bell. I know a lot of people that got married at churches and courthouses.
You are the 171st person that I've interviewed, and I've not heard a Taco Bell wedding yet.
There you go. Maybe they're coming.
I feel like maybe I've heard almost everything now.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we've covered a lot this afternoon. We've talked about a lot of things, covered your life story, basically. So I wanted to ask, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to?
Oh, gosh.
And then if not, I do have a final question, but I always like to make sure we covered everything.
I don't think so. I mean, you've kind of got to talking to me. I could talk for hours if you let me. I think that was pretty much it from the Marine Corps. We hit the high points. I'll probably remember something the second I walk out the door that would have been a cool story, but no, that's the big stuff. I even remembered some stuff I haven't talked about in a long time, which is always fun. My undergrad's in English, and actually I have a tattoo. It's a Tim O'Brien quote from the Things I Carried. And this has a lot more gravity, but I always laugh about that because you don't remember stuff until you tell the stories again. That's how the human brain works, and two, it's kind of a neat way to remember things. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why we do what we do.
Well, remember the guy that got shot? I do tell that one every now and then. What I've learned, so as I'm telling you the story anyway, that I said I didn't have any, is so we got back and he opened up a shop. He got out, and I think he's got 100% disability from the VA. He's probably still got some stuff wrong with him. You get shot in the head, I think you get a free pass on that one. Yeah. But so we do a program on campus. We don't do it. We're a partner. It's Warrior Scholar Project, where they send transitioning vets from all over the country to mainly Ivy League schools, but us, Notre Dame, Arizona. There's a couple schools that are on the list that aren't Ivy Leagues. We get these transitioning service members. I had one that was born in the late 50s. She's been out for a while. Yeah. Right? And I've got a lot of other people that are like in their last year, transitioning out, got out a couple weeks ago, whatever. Last year, I had two guys that were coming from the Marine Corps from the West Coast, and they knew about the store. And I'm like, yeah, it's in Oceanside, right south of 76. And they're like, yeah, Gearhound. I forgot the name of it at the time. I'm like, yeah, sure. Guy has a Great Dane. He's like, yeah, redhead with a Great Dane. I was like, yeah, that's Sergeant Foster. They don't know him by that. I was like, yeah, Sergeant. I was like, so, and I told them that story. They're like, no way. We love that story. He's got the best deals. He gets investigated, or he used to get investigated by NCIS all the time from where he was getting his gear to sell. Right. He went through brokers. He always had a paper trail for it. Great guy, stand-up guy. Like, he's not doing anything shady. And I imagine they probably died down now, but when he first opened the shop, it was like, where'd you get these, Gore-Tex jackets or whatever? And it's like, eBay. I bought 500 of them or whatever. Anyway, just remembering that whole story is fun, because now I've got these Marines coming back that were West Coast that like, oh yeah, that's back in my day. I know that guy. I'll tell you a story about him. And it's just fun. Yeah. It's just fun remembering that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a shame to remember what I forgot, because I'm sure, like I said, I lost my hard drive with my photos, and those will trigger your memory. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a lot of memories. A lot of really good memories. For all the bad, there's 10 times as many good. And that's the thing, like, I was thinking of, like, the questions you're going to, maybe it's your last question, is like, what do you miss or whatever? And it's always realize until I got older, like the leadership.
You start to apply them, and you don't realize you're applying the things that you learned.
Yeah.
You're digging holes and cleaning things.
And for the last, 4 or 5 years, I think I've leaned into that more and really understood. No, I do know what I'm doing. I had the epiphany a couple weeks ago that, at 22, I think it was, I did the math, and it was when I was a corporal section chief, I was in charge of 13 Marines. It's probably more like 10 because you're always short staffed. Yeah, right. But every month I was doing 10 counselings, 10 multi-page counselings. And granted, I put more effort into some than others, but still, at 22, I was doing that, and now I have one person. He's phenomenal. I have to give him a performance review once a year. And that's it. And I was at 22, I was doing so much more. And it took a couple years in detachment from that to realize how much I really did learn from that experience that wasn't the really overt things, like I know how to mop a floor. Yeah, I know how to dig a hole. You're like, oh, they don't really give you, when you come out of a combat MOS, they don't really give you a lot of skills. But they do. They're soft skills, and you don't notice them for a while sometimes.
Well, I think that's a hard thing for transitioning veterans too, is to be able to articulate those soft skills, right?
It really is.
Because as an infantryman, there's not a lot of jobs out there to shoot people. No. But you learned all these other skills.
You really did. Yeah. You really did. And the funny thing is, you saying that, they told us that. It still took a long time for me to really understand. I got that statement, you telling me, at 23, 24, I understood that. And I was like, oh, you do your resume and you explain, but I didn't really get it, I think was the thing. I could put it on a resume and tell you that I learned these things, but it never really clicked for me until a couple years ago. That's like, no, it's just taking care of the troops. That's really all this is. I take care of my employees to make sure they have the tools they need, just like I did in the Marine Corps. If my A gunner didn't have the pen he needed or like whatever, like some of that stuff quite, literally a thing. And other times it's mentorship and guidance. But like, that's really all it was. And that translates great. It just took me a long time to learn it.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing it. I just didn't get it.
Which is kind of a great segue because that wasn't the question I was going to ask.
Perfect.
But the question I was going to ask is this, 100 years from now when somebody's listening to this, what do you want them to take away from our conversation today? What piece of advice are you going to leave them with?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough question. There's a lot there's a lot. Like, I feel like that deserves a really, really deep answer. Life is a journey. And I'm not where I thought I was going to be, but I'm where I want to be.
Yeah.
I laugh, like, kind of going through all that with you and, like, high school and that. Like, I was going to be a cop. I was going to have a whole career of that. And then stuff changes. And, like, I would say, like, I don't know if I would have really enjoyed that. Maybe I would have. Who knows?
Right.
Different path, right? But, like, man, life's a journey. Just, like, walking through all this with you, it's wild to kind of piece that together. It's all stuff that I'm aware of. Right. If somebody asked me yesterday these same questions, it's there. But like actually walking through it, that's wild. All those different weird interactions that you get. Life's a journey and you never really know where you're going to end up and just, keep plugging away at it. Do good things, I think. That's what I try to do in life is, with my work and what is it? My wife is, we work to live. We try not to live to work. And that's true, but I do really enjoy what I do. And I just kind of through all that, I try to do the right thing, and I ended up in jobs where I get to help people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Hopefully that's profound to somebody in 100 years.
I think it's profound right now.
I'll take it.
We'll watch the comments on YouTube.
There you go.
Thanks for sitting down with me this afternoon, Patrick. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I did too. This has been fun, and I look forward to sending you more veterans, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast and for helping us honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others so more people can hear these important stories. To learn more about our mission, watch additional veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m.